All right, morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and call meetings to order. Hey, how are you? Wait a minute.
It's only 1 minute.
You're good. You're good. We just have things on the agenda. That's why I was getting started. Hey, how are you?
Are you joining our committee?
I am.
Yeah. That was actually our first comment that was on the agenda, but the council appointed Stacy to the BDC this past meeting or to February 7th. So
Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you.
Does that fill out our team now?
I don't know. Are we completely filled up?
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
we have 9.
Nice.
Good.
So
For the first time in a long time, all 3 business districts.
our representative, I was telling,
Yeah.
actually, I saw our Bob yesterday and I was telling him that it's for the first time in a while that we've had him all represented. So, so did you guys go ahead and review the minutes? We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Yes. Motion approved.
All right, a second. All right. All right. All in favor, approve of the minutes? All right,
Aye.
all right, good deal. It's chair and vice chair election. New one's up, right?
It's that time.
It is. So any nominees for, I guess, chair first?
Mike.
Any
Mike,
other nominees or? I don't mind doing it again if nobody else wants to. But- Oh, thanks. No other nominees? All right. You guys want to vote on me? As chair, all right, all in favor? All right, thanks, guys.
Can't say no, right?
I know. Well, we do need a vice chair though, because Pam was the old vice chair, right? So we haven't had one for a little bit. Pam,
Tim, didn't you vote yourself?
oh yeah, Tim, you did get voted, yeah,
yeah, I've been vice chair for the last 2 meetings.
that's right.
That's right,
Well-
we're good.
I'm all for Tim being the vice chair still. Anybody else?
Fine.
Unanimous? All right, good deal. All right. So we do have a lot of stuff on the agenda, actually. It's a pretty busy meeting. So work in Webster update. You want to go ahead and? do
Certainly.
that?
So the
Yeah.
digital advertising started, which of course unleashed a whole flurry of new postings. So 2 days after, within the first 2 days after the digital ads, we've had 14 new positions come in. So those will all be posted this week now. And then stay up for some time. We also have seen traffic hits increase by about over 400% to the site from outside of City Hall. We always look at that, who's inside City Hall looking at it, because of course, that's usually us, going back to check things. So we've seen the kind of growth we were hoping, at least the immediate spurt and such. So those ads will continue. Again, you may not see them. The way the algorithm works, you may not see them all and the way that works across the digital platforms, but it should be getting those who are looking for jobs. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I think it's been going well.
And then also the business license renewals, for those of you that got them in the mail, should have gotten an insert that went with them as well. So flyer that came in. So,
Good deal. All right, perfect. Let's do our code update. That's you, isn't it?
and it's
Oh.
there.
Me?
I don't know. I'll just throw you right in.
Well, I was not prepared for this.
You're okay.
Basically, one of the things that I would like to see is a QR code available for any establishment or business to pick up a Webster that a customer can walk by, scan it with their phone and get a directory. So I've been talking to Jen Starkey about how we will execute that.
Like
And like the landing page.
Yeah, what kind?
Just
of
like
directory?
a map and a list of the businesses.
So kind of like when in the old days you go to a mall and there's like a
Yeah.
directory and you could look up women's clothing or like
Definitely like a
restaurants.
wayfinder. Yes, exactly. So Gene Schultz has volunteered to make the map, so then we just have to figure out what to do from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So,
then do you have other-
well, to this point, we've talked about this before. So the map, the question is how dynamic a product of a map do you want to, we obviously can make the GIS map, which we mentioned, the old restaurant map was one, which is not dynamic and operates on the GIS platform, which is generally not intuitive to a consumer, right? None of us use the GIS mapping systems that government use. So Google was approached and they are putting together a bid for us. It will be expensive to have a dynamic map where people can go to the keywords and, pull apart, look for what they're looking for, a QR code that directs them into that. of course, built off of Google Map, which are much more intuitive, and we all generally have operated in that platform in some way. But if the Gene wants to make like the Halloween map, I think a trick or treat map is a great example, right? It's a static map, right, with the participating clientele. The point being is, as you all know, we have people in and out of business all the
Right.
time, some of which don't even ever tell us they're in or out of business, so.
Right.
So it's really a question of the product and the dynamicism you want behind the tool, you know, in terms of, even for us, you know.
Can we
updating it.
start like budget wise with a static map and then if people, we find that a lot of hits are
Sure.
going to it, then look at going
Sure,
to
we
an
can start with
upgrade?
static map. So the issue with the static map is to what size and scale and such, right? Because of course, even you put, if it's a phone on the phone, you know, if it's a document, a PDF document, which I'm assuming the designer would have to ultimately get things back to. You're going to get to, you know, how many pins, you know, even up in the Zeta Dell neighborhood, right? It's going to, I don't know that you can get enough, you're gonna get pixelated trying to get down to it, and
Mhm.
can you get enough detail? So we can certainly start with that though.
Is it gonna be something that's gonna be easy to update, like the Jen can update it?
Well,
Or we're gonna have to-
yeah, pulling in our business licenses is not hard
Well-
at all. The problem is that half the businesses in town don't have to have a business license and don't have to tell us they're operating. You know, I mean, any of the state regulated businesses don't have a business license. So there are a whole segment of the business community that does not need to communicate with the city about their operations. And so therefore, we don't know if they're in or out, right? And we can't just ask the state. We are legally barred from pulling any tax data and using it in any public way, including identifying a business.
So is the intent of this to be primarily for like restaurants and retail?
It's basically to be a QR version of a Wayfinder.
Yeah.
Because we looked at pricing for Wayfinders. We talked about where we would put them. And then the city did that questionnaire
Mhm.
out to everybody, and Wayfinder was at the very bottom of the list, I think.
The
as far as-
kiosking,
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
so then this was the second idea, to get some type of,
Well, then it doesn't even have to be like a 2 scale map. It can be kind of one of
Sure,
those fun
yeah,
cartoon
sure.
kind of maps, you know, where it's just like, this is a district and over here, and by the way, did you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I mean, this could grow into a position for somebody at the city eventually for sponsorship.
Yeah, we could put
And-
little ads on the bottom of that map, but it could pay for it.
Yeah.
So. What if we had some type of like business opt-in to be on the map, and then that could get people engaged, and then if you opt in, then you get the sticker, and then, I mean, people come into my shop all the
So
time
they
and
could-
are like.
Yeah.
What else is there? And I'm like, well, head to Paisley, go to.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there are people that come to us that don't even know about Old Orchard and Old Webster.
Totally.
I believe it.
Oh, I definitely, do. yeah.
We're just like, go to the end of Summit and either make a left or a right, you won't go wrong. Either way, it's fun.
So there are, all those options are available, right? We have only construed this in terms of taking it from the initial suggestion as a free service. So therefore, you know, when we do things in City Hall as a free service, then why do we limit people, right? And that becomes a question of why is the city not putting everyone on? And that is so if we would go to an opt-in model, it's totally different, right? I'll just tell you that half the time, working in Webster Groves is a great example. The number of businesses, even though they've been contacted 5-6 times, until they saw the ads, we didn't know this happened.
Yeah.
Right, you know, I mean, so the opt-ins it'll take a year before people finally hear that it's happening, much less turn on.
I disagree. If there's a business owner that takes charge of it and gets on the phone and calls everybody, it will fill up quickly.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
I
divide
mean,
it.
And see, I don't disagree with you, but I'll point to the trade association that,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you've had concerns finding people just to do things
Share.
for 20 years.
Share, not go to events or participate. in
Well, but
events,
this is
share them.
more than,
Yeah.
this is the problem. It is not as simple that this is gonna be tough. I mean, what's trick or treating take you in terms of hours?
But
to
she's
get
not a
people?
business owner.
But let's be very clear about how long it takes.
As far as solicitation,
Yeah.
yeah, it takes in-person solicitation.
And
if
how
you
long
really
does it take?
want. Oh, each event is a little different, but yeah, if I walk the districts, talk to everybody, that's a minimum of 3 hours,
Sure,
Yeah,
Yeah.
minimum.
So
So
I don't,
that's just one district.
yeah.
but you're also just one person and we're this many people, like I could hit up my street, you could hit up your section.
There could be a business owner in charge of each one of their districts that is in charge of getting the word out, and that I don't think is the same as asking somebody to share. And I do think when you have a business owner going and talking to another business owner, explaining why this is important, instead, not that Fran's not amazing at what she does, but people know she's paid and
Mhm.
oh, it gets a little confusing. when a business owner goes to another business owner and says, we need to do this, can I have your commitment?
Mhm.
The answer is like that.
And the commitment.
Is it a
Yeah.
financial commitment or is it
From the
a,
city.
Yeah,
right, as far as like this initial, this.
Depends on how we-
version?
Depends on how we construct it. I mean, really, the city's looking to you all for recommendations, like, what do you want, right? It's, you know, this has been a big idea without a lot of the bones on it, right? And so staff have been looking at it, but what do you all want and how do you want to construct it? Doesn't have to be the city's financial or time commitment at all.
Mhm.
But well, how do you want it operated?
Do you have a vision for that, whether it would be like financial opt-in or?
I love the opt-in idea because of it. I mean, I guess if you do an opt-in, we could throw on something like $25 and that adds up fairly quickly. Like I said, Jen Starkey and I were kind of bouncing ideas off of each other.
Cause even what, like it would be like, I guess, a simple cost for the graphic or whatever. But then all of the little stickers, you want that like on your door, right? Like just, something about
Yeah, like a little vinyl. in there.
little vinyl QR code thing on your door, so. That has a little cost as well, so yeah, I mean, a real simple, low entry point commitment. It's a little skin in the game and makes it seem a little more like, I guess I should put that sticker on there, I paid for it, and tell people about it.
This is wonderful creative conversation, but is there no reason why we can't have different QR codes for each of the districts that just drop a pin where that code when it opens and everybody that's on the Google map presents.
I would-
itself?
Where it's like a different starting
Just
point,
made
basically.
something
Yeah.
That was just a
Yeah.
simple one district thing.
Not saying that
You
one
know, you
district,
have to
just to
re-
start, just a different
If
starting.
it's
point.
wayfinding,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
And then there's like another link that shows where the rest of Webster is.
Oh, you mean like a you are here? pin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah,
That could be cool if there's a way to do it. I feel like that's more
Well, there's
beneficial.
certainly
And if,
three-
yeah, if you pull it up and it pulls up right where you are and
That
you
should
can
be
see what's right
simple
around you.
enough to do, like, cause the map would be the same, you would just move where the pin is.
right.
Just a different
Not
QR code for
starting
different
point.
businesses, basically.
No, you just have one QR code for Old Webster and one QR code for Old.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah. 3 different, 4 different QR
Yeah.
codes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Maybe.
If you opt in, like if
We
you
don't
get
have to opt
Green
in
Goose.
this.
No, if you get Green Goose opt in, that would be a totally different, so you might end up with more pages, but. Not a big deal.
Well, that's just another QR code. It's a you are here. If you're looking at wayfinding, which is what Stacy started with, that's certainly a simple wayfinding. It all just requires a decal. For a business.
Councilwoman Bliss, go ahead. Sorry. I didn't realize your
Hi.
hand was up.
Thanks for having me today. I have a question and a comment. And so the question would be, is this just for retail establishments, people that have storefronts, et cetera, or does it include service businesses? And then the next thing would just be a comment is I think as the city, as this is a city sponsored BDC sponsored thing, I do think it would be better to have everyone involved and not do the opt-in. I think if you want to do the opt-in for events or checking in and drumming up enthusiasm, but I think there's a point to where we have to, as the BDC, include everybody.
That's a good point. Yeah, it just comes down to the cost and financing of it, which I guess if we have an idea what we're looking at,
Well, if you just do QR code decals, the cost is.
those are minimal.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
are- The real cost becomes the dynamicism of where the map shows,
Yes.
right? So the current, I mean, we can easily put a map up right now, a QR code goes to it. When you add the QR code, this QR code goes to this section of the map to start. That's where you get more dynamic. And I don't know that the basic government website we have, right, would open a PDF and like zoom you to that spot. It may not. I don't know the answer.
I'm
If we're
not
gonna,
suggesting that. I'm saying it's just opens Google Maps at the corner
Well,
of, you know.
exactly. So
More
we can do
than-
that. The difference is it's gonna open Google Maps and not have all the pins on it, right? Google's gonna charge for the dynamic nature of identifying the businesses. It's gonna open Google, we can have it open Google Maps, but it's gonna be the basic, pull up Google Maps right now. That's what you're gonna see.
Basically, like if you just put on your phone
Exactly.
and checked in where you are,
Yeah,
it's gonna show that.
So what Google is quoting
Yeah.
for us is from that, we pull up, I'll use Tim's spot. That was a great example. So I'm at Tim's register. I have no idea where to go. Google is quoting for us. What's the dynamic look in that area? But then allowing us to separate out on Gore is gonna be just loads of pins, right? You know, you're gonna see the little red pins all over. You know, I'm looking for restaurants, eliminate everything else, you know, from that view. That's what Google can do for us. Now, that's going to be more expensive than the basic operation City Hall can pull together. But it's not to mean that we can't do it. It's just, it's gonna take some of that money out of the air.
When are we gonna have the bid from Google?
I would expect it this month, so.
Okay.
We've been talking, trying to refine, they've been trying to refine what we're looking for, and we as staff have been trying to give them the best that we, from the vision that we've talked about. So
Okay, Stacy, go ahead.
I would like to, sorry, this is.
You're okay.
I would like to kind of come up with. The way I see this is, you know, like the Old Orchard and Old Webster, they have the trade associations and therefore they have the pamphlets. So I was looking for a version of the different pamphlets to be able to get people to go to a landing page for that instead of having to like rely on an employee to be like, here's what this brochure is, and when most of the employees don't even know what they are. And so I think it would be kind of cool to see the actual QR code landing page, like an overall non-zoomed in map of Webster Groves. Then underneath that, be able to list the different districts, and then they can click on the district and see where that is in the map. And then it kind of gets more.
Like Zoom, yeah,
Yeah,
that zooms in and
I
stuff like
don't
that.
really. I don't know how you guys would feel, but I don't really want them to land on Google and be able to pick restaurants and be able to nix retail. Like, I feel like that kind of takes away from the experience.
Yeah, you want them to be able to find things that they're not necessarily looking for, right?
Yes.
I mean,
This is Old Webster shops on maps. There's a lot of pins,
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
not everybody's basically pin.
I think Jean
Zoe's
could come up
there.
with a really fun map and
Yeah.
make it look really cool, like she's the one that does the trick or treating maps. The any event that we do that has a map in Old Orchard, Jean has done for, or Old Webster,
Yeah.
sorry. Jean has done.
She has, she's excellent.
Yeah.
So have you talked to her about like pricing? Great,
you said she's willing to do it, yeah.
yeah.
If you don't know, Jean is the owner of Kite Zone.
Oh, okay, yes.
And her
Back in
background,
the day, yeah.
But her
Creative director.
Her previous life was,
This.
yeah,
So I'm gonna, just as you talk about that, we can go with any model. I'll share so folks on the screen can see this too, sorry, on Zoom. This is our internal GIS, but the reason I'm pulling this up, Councilwoman Melissa's seen this. You will see a couple different shades here, and I'm really gonna highlight red colors. You can obviously see the Old Orchard District. I think you can see here, Old Webster is a different commercial zoning, but you can see that there. What I wanted to highlight is all the red spots. As you look outside the districts are commercial areas within the city. So obviously Zeta Del, the Maypop area, some that you probably don't even think of, you know, down by the fire station 2, where the beauty bar
Mhm.
is down there. A little strip there. We have Freddy's over here, obviously, then the Watson Road, not just Yorkshire, but of course, Bendham and Watson as well. So I think I counted one time, don't hold me to it, but I think it's about 18 distinct commercial
Areas.
separate areas that exist across the city. So not that we can't do a landing page and, you know, get to that. It's going to be, it's a lot when we start talking about the entire area. And you're sooner or later we'll end up excluding someone, we'll fix it and make it work, but it, you know, I'm just so you know the scope of how many different areas that we're highlighting.
Well, during the Webster Way clearance sale, I pulled up the directory list of the business
Oh.
owners. There's a whole bunch of people that are gone.
Yep.
And then new that are not there.
So that's again, because
Yeah.
most businesses are supposed to tell us to
Yeah.
close, they close and they don't, and that's fine. And then we, as we bump into all that business moved or someone moved into the building they're in, we're like, okay, so obviously that person closed and such. So
Yeah,
that's where that is derived out of, and that's the static nature. I mean, even we at city don't know in and out who's coming in and out all the time. And that's only those that need to license with us.
that's the challenge I see with it,
Yeah.
not one that we can't tackle, but just staying up to date with the.
Right.
Right.
The map and
Sure.
things and stuff like that, so.
opting into something, I don't think is excluding. I think that it's giving people an option to say that they want to be on the map. Some people might not want to be on the map. And then that gives them the option.
So maybe is it a question of whether this is so it's definitely a good idea. Is it a question of, is it something that business owners should just do on their own then? Or is it something that should be a BDC? Because Pam had a good point, which is if it's through the BDC, that really it needs to be an option for all businesses, like all businesses should be included. Because we're trying super hard, like you're showing, there's 18 different areas and we're trying to, unify talking about, like everybody as a whole Webster kind of thing. But like if we wanted to do like an initial version of it, is that something really that should be more, kind of like a trade association sort of thing, except for like more broad?
Well,
But
I
like
think the
off the
BDC is more of the more broad of the trade associations, because it covers all of Webster.
Right, but then if we do, like
Yeah.
Pam said, we probably need to just open it up to everybody.
Well, yeah, the
Like
opt-in
if
is
an
open to
insurance
everybody.
agent,
It's just an opt, like an email would go out from the city of Webster. It could also be on the business license to tell people about this. And they can check off or sign their business up. Any business in Webster can be
So
included, but you
how
have to
often-
actually opt in for
how
it.
often would it get updated though?
I would say annually with the business license.
Okay, so like if a new business comes in, like. But no, I mean, how often is the person going to do it? Cause
Yearly.
but monthly, like the licenses, are they all due at the same time?
Well, they all, yes,
April
the
first.
renewals are,
Okay, but
new
if
bus-
you start-
new licenses come in.
But they get a business license packet when they come in, a new business license.
That's correct, yes, but the point, what I think what she's getting at is, Bijou chocolates, just, right, I mean, when do
Like, if
they,
you
do
open
they
it
wait for a
in
year?
August,
Right.
you don't get to be on the map until like next year?
Oh, I don't think that. I think it's just the opt.
I think she's asking how often do we redo the map?
Yes, the map.
When somebody opts in, they can just be added to the map.
So it's not a
Okay, but
static
if it's
map.
already an existing business, they wouldn't be able to opt in until the following year.
They opt in when they opt in? Yeah.
Right, so this could be a continually updated thing.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's how I see it. I mean, I don't see it as
Real-time
a
update.
stagnant page. I think it's something that's gonna be a linked page. So basically, we can put descendant on it and have the link to descendant on there.
Just have a little sign up.
Maybe
form.
pop link on there. And
If
then
we
that
made
could
it
be-
free, is it more universal? Like, is that less exclusive?
Yeah.
Like it
What
could
did you
still,
say, Julia?
if we made it free instead
Oh,
of like the
free.
paid opt-in, is that, just.
I mean, potentially, we just have to find a way to fund it, which we have money to fund something like
I just
this.
think
We just have to figure out what the cost is.
Yeah, so like, free is great, but I'm sure the time commitment is probably gonna exceed what we initially
Yeah.
were imagining. And then going to Google is gonna be astronomical.
Right.
There is no way.
Sure. yeah. And so-
I mean, that's the
Yeah.
business they're in.
Let me give you a sense of this real quick, as we talk about GIS maps, so I use this one here, just to give you. See, I think I have. I want the labels. That, there it is. There it is, there we are. I think I can give you a sense of what it would look like. I'll use business district trash containers to give you, a sense here. So this is a GIS map. We can clear out all the colors and all the distinctions, but to give you a sense of, I mean, just the pins, this is what it looks like just to drop. That's where the trash cans are located in Old Webster. So we internally know, right? So I mean, that's, I think, 30 some trash cans. That gives you a sense of like what pins will look like when you start, if you use the GIS side that we can do locally. And again, just look at this. Have any of you ever operated a map that looks like this or, figured it out, right? I mean, it's different than Google because you have.
Can
a
I,
layer
can I
listing.
see it, Eric?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot to share. Sorry, forgot to share. Sorry. There we go. Sorry. Thanks, Ken. So this is, this is a GIS map that the city does. These are trash cans. You can see the little trash can emblem there. So this is what we started with, like what do we can use this kind of map, put pins on where all the businesses are. They would actually have a little pop-up. We can do that, no different than we do with parcels, that show who the owner is and all that. But again, I don't think most people know how to use this and not really operated in a GIS system. It's a land mapping function, right? That cities are used to using.
So it's gotta be more user friendly than that,
Right.
but not as user friendly as Google, because Google's too expensive.
Well,
So
and right,
something-
we don't have a platform in between there. We don't have a platform for
Right.
that. So I mean, it's either we find the platform on the market, which Google is the map. you can go to, I think Bing has maps, but it's either way, right? You can go to one of those two companies, which are gonna cost some money to try to make a more dynamic grid. Or you start with a different type of static map that may be PDF and then you add things to it. But again, even that, you're going to end up with, you know, you just pull out, right? I mean, you can see there's a lot of other layers. Let me shut them off real quick here. So you don't have to look at all this other stuff, but you're gonna end up with tough to see, you know, a concentration of layers. You know, there, I mean, like, you know, what is that? Obviously, you see a concentration of business, but what is it, you know? Does an own, what do we really go to there? So we don't have a tool beyond this. That's my point.
I
Other than,
actually think that I can creatively make a fun static map of Webster Groves with the help of a graphic designer.
Mhm.
Then be able to have the different business districts within that, or maybe spots or whatever. And then them having like clickable links to each business, but have a couple different pages that are stagnant instead of so interactive.
Yeah, just
I
like a
don't think this
directory.
needs to be like super like zoom in. I think we're overthinking this. I think it can just be more of a directory.
Yeah, with a cutesy map.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't, this is more complicated than I had in my head.
So in the links, are you envisioning kind of more like where it just turns the
Your
line of
website.
business blue and then
Yeah.
you just click it and it takes you, yeah.
Yeah.
So like literally like a mall map
Yes,
Yeah.
where the names of the businesses are a link to that business page.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Super easy.
All right, so I think.
Maybe
that-
not.
no, it's fine.
Okay.
The only reservation I have again is, you know, the energy that we start on those things with directories is great. Business directory is a great example. It takes more than just that first year and that energy. It's an ongoing 5 years from now, is there the same energy to continue?
And
You
whose
know.
responsibility is
And
it?
who does all that time after time? Because the business directory is a great example, right? I mean, that thing's outdated. I don't, and I'll be honest, tell you, even as a city person, wanting to know what businesses we have here, I don't look at the business directory we have.
Sure,
I go to
Which is
Google.
bad.
I use Google.
That's not right, though.
Well, it
That
is
doesn't
right.
make
It is right, because if businesses aren't gonna tell us they close, I can't have any trust in the data in, they junk in, junk out. So I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's not the city's fault, right? I mean, the city by a business by ordinance, by law, is supposed to tell us if they close. They don't, that's fine. So
But new
I use-
businesses on there is missing on there too, which is a city issue, I think.
certainly, yes,
Yeah.
it has to get updated at,
Yeah.
yeah, at intervals, right? So,
Mhm.
so next steps on it, we'll figure out what the Google cost is, which is gonna be probably something we're not gonna use. How do we figure out what the cost is of? I mean, we
Give
have
me some
to,
time. I'll come
we'll
up.
give you a little time. So,
Sounds
all
like you
right,
said
so
free.
let's.
I heard free.
Yeah.
Sounds between 30 and like 50 grand.
For free. I don't know how much Gene is gonna put into this for me,
Sure.
but let me see what I can.
All right, we'll have you
A lot of
circle back with
issues
Gene. Push it to next month or like a couple months, give you a little time with it. Just tell us when you talk to Gene and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of talk to Jen Starkey about it too.
Yeah,
because
Jenny,
he was-
but just on that, I talked to Jenny Starkey. I want to be very clear. I appreciate commission members. They need to go to the staff liaison. Jenny Starkey is not a free call for
Sure.
folks. This is,
Okay,
so, and to be, I don't mean to be confrontational.
No,
about
no.
this.
yeah,
All the commissions make recommendations.
Yeah.
They don't enact things. So they need to, you know, make the recommendations to council and then we work with the council if they're going to happen with the weeds. So Jenny was fine talking with folks and I have no problem with that, but we need to keep in the lanes of what's
Stay
the
with
overall
Jenny.
vision that you want to recommend.
oh, I'm not asking her, giving her direction anyway, I was just asking what's easy and what's already existing.
I'm telling you, she doesn't even know all the things I know that are existing. So I'm giving you the full option,
For the impression she actually managed that.
not the mapping.
Oh,
She
okay.
just the webpage.
Who is the person that managed it?
IT,
Okay.
GIS is all an IT function.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay,
Just learning.
you're good. All right, so let's move on to the report to city council. That's in April, right? So we're doing it?
I believe it's in April, yes.
I'm pretty sure. it is.
Dates are blending together. We've moved it 4 times. So. This-
So,
so,
sorry, go ahead.
Commissions are reporting to city council. Mike has essentially has been asked to provide a 10-minute report to the city council on the work of the BDC. Councilmember Bliss offers a note every month about what you all have been doing in your meetings and will at the next meeting as well. But I do want, I think the point of this is, what do you want to talk about, right? And
Yep.
add that report to council, so.
To throw in feedback for what you guys want me to talk about, and then I'll put something together in the next, next month or so, and we can review it real quick, just as far as bullet points.
Is this a past thing or a future thing?
I think it's both. I think it's,
Yeah.
highlighting, successes, failures, whatever it may be, but then also what are the, the recommendations or things that you believe that we should be working, that you should be working on. And, it's also a time for the council, okay, for some commissions that we haven't had this yet, and Councilmember Bliss pop in if you need. But, is the strategic vision you all have for your commission in line with what the council is thinking about, where to go for those operations for each commission, so. And they're very cordial conversations. It's not adversarial. I don't want to make it sound like that. So,
Well, I would like to interject that I have always felt strongly, but I can't seem to ever figure out how to get there without events, that it's our job to knit all the business districts awareness together to the public. Which was the business bingo thing, but I've also brought this thing Dave Buck did last week, which was basically all the same, same concept, and so is the mapping idea, like, how do we make people more aware of all the types of districts we have as a brand under Webster Groves?
So I have something that I wanted to bring up later, but this might be a good spot here, is that like back when we had the business roundtable sort of things and we identified things, we were still in the midst of coming out of COVID. And so businesses have honed and refined and edited what it is they're trying to do, what their goals are and how they're doing things. And I think we might need to come back to something like that and sort of figure out amongst the businesses in Webster, how best can the city support us? And what kind of things are we gonna take on ourselves that are gonna help, unite Webster?
Why don't we,
So if we had a subcommittee or like another kind of roundtable thing or something, or maybe if the subcommittee could start and figure out, is roundtable the best way? Is a survey the best way? Is like a happy hour the best way to find out and talk to people about it or whatnot? And we, even if it's not by the time, that we have the report to the city council, we could tell them, this is what we're working on,
why don't we drop that down as far as the report to the city council, because I agree with the business engagement roundtable. I know we talked about that, and that's the next thing we're talking about is redoing one.
Yeah.
Let's move that to the end of the whole business, and then let's talk about business engagement in the roundtable, because we're talking about doing another one. That was basically what we were talking about last month.
Yeah.
And I think we should, and I think that's, that goes along with what we're trying to do as far as unifying business districts, is figuring out how we can help the business owners. And yeah, go ahead, Stacey.
A few years ago, Mayor Welch used to host coffee with her for the businesses. She would do it she did it at the rec center. Do you remember this? And I felt like that was a really cool thing as a business owner, to be able to go hear what she's working on, what the city is working on. It's really great to hear it from the mayor. And obviously, we have a new mayor, but I don't think a lot of the business owners have met the new mayor either. And so this would give an opportunity for business owners to get together, hear from some city council members, hear from the mayor, and be able to have just like coffee and mingle for a little bit.
I like that
Maybe
as like
fill
a
out the
standing
survey.
event, like a quarterly event or something like that. I don't think it needs to be weekly or monthly necessarily, but something that's just there that.
Sure.
You get open feedback from, from each other. as far
Talk
as
with the mayor.
it's almost-
We obviously don't tell the mayor what to do, but
No.
we can certainly.
But,
Yeah.
no, I think it's a cool idea.
But that would be a source of gathering information without having to put out a notice that we're gonna have a thing, because we did have a thing at Webster.
Yeah.
And it was okay, but it wasn't as full of people that had needs as one would like.
I thought we got decent feedback from it. I like the idea of both. Yeah, I mean, I just say, I think you will get a lot of the same people sometimes because we do have a lot of the same actively engaged business owners. But
Right.
at the same time, I think an invite to do the business roundtable might get different people than somebody popping in for coffee because they
Different people
have it on their
engage
calendar
with
and they're like,
different
oh,
levels and
I'm free
different
this
ways.
morning. Yeah,
Like the people that responded to the survey may be entirely different than the people that went to the roundtable or the people that would go to the coffee.
Councilwoman Bliss, you can go ahead.
I just had a question. Do you all remember I know Work in Webster Groves or helping connect employers with workforce was the number one item on the survey. Do we have information about what were items 2 and 3? I do think, touching base with everybody is a good thing, but I'm wondering, as just since we did the work already, is it possible to kind of do parallel tracks where we're pursuing items 2 and 3 and touching base at the same time?
Good idea.
So maybe revisit, I agree with that,
Revisit the
revisiting
survey results, yeah.
survey results. Do you have that, Eric, or should we? Yeah.
I'm trying to remember top of my head.
I know,
what we-
I know I have it in my notes back when we reviewed them, but I'm
Sorry,
sure
I'm-
it's easier.
I will make sure Tim and Pam can see what I'm doing, that everyone else can see in the room here. So this is the summary results. They're online. I cannot remember. We consolidated these as we talked to that subgroup into, labor and workforce issues. Was capital the next one? I seem to think that was it access to.
Parking, that's.
Well, there's always parking.
Parking's always-
Was it small business assistance or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be, this, where are we at here? What's the question I'm looking for? Get there. Nearby parking, yes.
So while you're looking for that, I think that Stacy's idea of talking with the mayor is good, and I'm thinking that when people are in an environment like that where they're just listening, it triggers their minds to say, oh yeah, I wish you would do this, I wish you would do this, I wish you would do this. So I'm thinking it wouldn't hurt at a coffee like that to have the chance to get feedback. And that would keep us from having to have our own special event, or at least it would parallel it.
And it's like an easy avenue, but like, sometimes you could feel like, do I have a voice? Who do I even talk to? Who do I go to in the city? And it's just like, oh, there's something to say, go to there. And just
Right.
say
Yeah.
it.
Well, and it could be kind of cool if somebody on the commission and didn't necessarily always have to be the same person, but somebody from the BDC was at that coffee.
Oh, yeah,
I like
So
coffee. I
that
don't
we
mind.
could hear
yeah.
firsthand and talk to people, and sometimes teasing the conversation out is.
Absolutely.
I can't remember. Well, I'll look back for our notes. The survey results are there, so you can all go back and look at it. I can't remember. We had taken all of that and sort of boiled it into like 4 or 5 different topic
Yeah.
ideas.
And then, I mean, the roundtable, the initial one, yeah, it was coming out of COVID, but then it was trying to figure out how to spend that.
Right, it was really, as
Money.
ahead of ARP,
Yeah.
is there a business need
Yeah.
for ARP funds?
And now we still have the ARP funds and we still have to figure out a way to spend them.
Correct.
So I think, I mean. But
Your ideas are free. Hopefully.
so I mean, should we try and do another roundtable as well? though?
So I-
Or go over the survey results?
So
and then
I
go
think
from there
that-
next month?
I think from the city side now, obviously the mayor and the council members can always have whatever meetings they wish. I mean, former Mayor Welch's was, outside sort of the city staff apparatus, but I'm happy to work with the mayor and do that. I do think that certainly the city manager was very interested when I reported back from the last meeting on having another roundtable. It doesn't have to be the same model, could be
Right.
more coffee meet and greet style, could be, in whatever way is comfortable, many different locations. But also, do you want us just to have a sort of an ongoing, the three question mini survey ongoing and open, right? That's just about business needs. I mean, we can do that, right? And it's really a question of what do you want on that then? I mean, I can write one, but that's from my perspective, not you all are the voices of business that we look to give us input. So very open to doing that. It's a matter of what you want to do and just working with planning and figuring out space and time and make it work.
So is it something that maybe we should throw to a brief little subcommittee to come up with a list of proposals to bring back to the commission? to
Sure,
enact?
yeah. And if the commission says, let's go do something, I mean, you could take it a step further and say, subcommittee, go plan and schedule and do,
Sure.
so.
I'm willing to start a subcommittee on that. I'll join it. Anybody would join? Okay. Anybody else want to be on?
No, Mike.
No.
That's good.
Anyway, I'm just gonna offer that you could just say to the BDC that we're continuing to survey the businesses.
Yeah, I mean, we are.
Because that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about
Yeah.
tonight.
Continuing to survey the businesses for needs, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a subcommittee. Once
Okay,
you guys work on that, and
Three of
then
us?
come back together.
all right.
Let's do it.
Anybody else wants to jump on and go ahead?
I do have a question Ed, about this, about creating another subcommittee, since there always is this parking issue in Webster. Is there a subcommittee that can be created just to discuss parking?
Well, I think
think
that
it's the
that
wrong
could
meeting
be,
for that.
that's probably gonna be something that comes
Yeah.
up, you know, as a business need in this, you know, like feedback kind of thing. Like, is, you know, what are the low hanging fruit?
Yep.
Yeah.
And to be, so that, and actually just real quick to the development fund recommendations, this speaks across commissions, right? Because we have a traffic advisory commission. And we have sustainability commission, and there's those ideas are starting to meld, right? Like, what do we do? Traffic advisory is looking at pedestrian friendly, how do we, slow speeds, all those things that Officer Razul and many others are concerned about, but then also, how do we meld that with sustainability, right? And a car culture that is focused on driving between point A and point B all the time. And as BDC discusses parking, so we've noticed that where commissions are starting now, they have divergent recommendations. So I'm not cautioning us from having that. It's really the conversation about we have to bring them back all together, and the council has to try to distill that into what is the actual pathway forward, between, because there are folks on, I'll give you a sense, sustainability and traffic, I'll probably tell you the exact opposite of what you're gonna say about parking.
Mhm.
That it doesn't go up, it goes, needs to go down. So,
Well, same with that parking survey.
sure, yeah, and
They
there,
gave us the exact opposite of what we thought we would hear from the tax or from.
that
the
you
tax
tried with
industry.
parking survey about 10
Yeah.
years ago, yeah.
Oh,
So,
10 years ago.
Full, but still paid for.
And of course, then the question always comes in also is the threshold that the city has set, can that be lowered?
The parking minimums and such, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
You know, so like then it is like more
Right.
walking and, you
Yep.
know, like parking, spreading things out instead of trying
Right.
to concentrate.
Well, and I'm just very confused because I sit on a taxing meeting and I'm new, so sorry if I have this quick question. Where we spent 40 minutes yesterday talking
Mhm.
about parking. Who is actually supposed to be talking about parking? Because if taxing is talking about for 40 minutes, BDC is talking about 40 minutes, I can only imagine what they're doing on the other side of town.
Well, I think parking exists in all areas.
Yeah.
Parking is not exclusive to the business community
Yeah.
or to, police community engagement or the traffic advisory commission. Parking is a function of the entire city apparatus. Ultimately, it's the council's job, right?
Okay,
So I think from the BDC's perspective is what is parking in relation to business community needs, right? And so, and that's a double-edged sword, as Tammy just noted, right? We want parking for people to park at our retail establishments and our restaurants and such. But also, if you want to build a business in this town, you have to, as we talked about with Olive and Oak, please go lease a lot, because we're gonna require you to have so many off-street parking spaces. That's a parking, that's a business cost that the government mandates you to have, right? A parking minimum. And so
Yeah.
I think there's all those aspects, but parking is a universal issue, that belongs to everyone in some regards.
but what I'm seeing is it sounds like BDC's, it's on the top of it's on the list for BDC to worry about. But then why is it on the list for taxing? And it doesn't seem like that's not really being.
Well, I think because taxing districts pay into parking, right? Well, so,
Right.
Old
so-
Webster especially, none of the other districts pay for parking like Old Webster does. You pay for 2 lots, the other districts don't. But parking is at the back of a business community's, need,
But
right?
it's also has maintenance.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
mean,
right,
there's,
yes,
you gotta maintain it, you've gotta pay for that
sure.
and
But what I'm saying is if the BDC is gonna work on doing some solution, talking about parking. Why are we also having our business districts waste their time talking about it too?
I don't have that option.
It's
So I
like
don't
there
know
needs
that
to be a
somebody
business
is.
development
Yeah, this
commission
makes
called
no
a
sense.
parking development.
Because
commission.
this was 45 minutes about parking, and it sounds like it's possible to have that at this meeting too, which makes it mean I'm sitting here for 90 minutes a
So
month.
you're asking, is there a commission that just gets together like this and talks about parking
Yes.
with people from all those?
The answer is.
Yes.
the
Yeah.
answer is-
Not a
Do
bad
you think that
idea.
maybe there needs
Well,
to
well,
be?
there certainly can be. The difference is that, again, Old Webster talks about it more because there's special revenue funds that only Old Webster can use.
Obviously, but maybe there's somebody from Old Webster that needs to get together with BDC, that needs to get together with Old Orchard Crossroads, so it's like.
I
Parking
don't-
commission.
That is something we could talk with council about creating a parking commission. I don't know that it's risen, other than
Yeah,
for you in Old Webster, it is not boiled up as a need that is across the city in that same regard, right?
okay,
I
it's
mean,
just
it's
Old Webster that's talking about it.
Old Webster in reality, and it really because of the cost that you bear to have those 2 lots that are different than the other district.
they have more challenges.
Right, I mean, Old Orchard doesn't talk about parking at all. Fran, we don't talk about
Oh,
parking.
well, I was just going off the survey,
Yeah.
being in the
Well,
top of
so-
the survey
In St.
issue.
Adele, if we were gonna talk
Yeah.
about, we'd talk about lowering the threshold.
Right.
Because, you know, there's like businesses that wanna go into that one strip, but can't because
Because they can't find parking, yeah.
Right.
it does not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to buy land or lease land to make
Or
service.
you
like
or
a
lease
minimum
space
wage.
from someone.
Yeah.
So, but that's in a really tiny spot. So different areas are gonna have different needs. And so it sounds like that the reason they talk about it for so long and so much is because of that particular area.
Sure.
I just want them to change the minimum.
Right, yeah, I mean, so, and this is a great idea for the BDC, maybe
Yeah,
that.
that's easy, low hanging fruit, right? All we gotta do is now you have to.
Well, it's, yeah, so,
But, and is that a uniform, I mean, is that what, do you think changing the, lowering the minimum makes sense also?
I
In Old
honestly
Webster?
don't
I mean-
even know, but the fact that this is the first time I've heard about that, is lowering the minimum. We've never even talked about it.
Well, it's not been an issue because you guys have changed.
yeah,
Well, no, they have an issue there too, yeah,
I
but
mean, it's
I,
crowded, it's busy, but there's access.
Well, no, Olive and Oak had to pay.
Oh,
That's
no,
it.
rent
but,
them. They would probably say that's an issue.
but
I
that,
mean, if I had to pay to,
But
for
it
parking for my
exists.
business to get
but
my
it,
employees,
it exists.
Yeah.
And it's possible.
yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
worth a look as far as providing a recommendation potentially to city council to change the minimums. Can we just get
Sure,
the?
we'll pull the parking minimums, that's in.
We'll
We'll pull parking minimums.
Let's talk about it, and I mean,
It's, Councilwoman Bliss has been involved in parking minimums before, I know she's talked about it, so it's not off the radar.
sure,
No, where I'm getting to parking is there's probably differing recommendations coming from different places. So you could recommend a parking commission, we could look at a specific issue within parking minimums or, you know, employee lots, things like that. Or some amalgamation of different recommendations.
let's look at it as a potential policy change. And then, we'll get back into it when we have that information, so.
Is that good for you, Stacy? You got it?
Yes,
All right.
I just, if we're gonna talk about it, I don't feel like everybody needs to individually spend 45 minutes. I think there needs to be, which sounds like at some point that probably is gonna happen.
Sure, yeah, I mean, but it would need to be a policy change, yeah, so, which we could provide that recommendation, it makes sense. BDC development fund recommendations.
So on this, we have, you'll have approximately $72,000 out of the 100,000 left after the digital ads are paid for. No, that's more than that, 82,000, excuse me, let me go back, 82,000. So we are built into the budget to just simply roll anything left over into next year. We haven't added any more in terms of when we get down to G and budget request as of yet. Because obviously that's $82,000 still to be spent. I do want to highlight, Councilmember Bliss knows this, the Sustainability Commission is working on the Green Dining Alliance. It's something that's part of the sustainability plan for Webster Groves. That is a movement and a criteria-based opt-in by restaurants that, you know, there are certain ways to change business practices to become a green dining institution. Maypop may be.
Oh, we do a bunch
So
of
you
things.
do it,
yeah.
yes. So,
Compost all the food, use
Exactly.
compostable products. That's-
so sustainability is going to be coming to a meeting here to talk about that probably next month. And really to opt in, the fundamental piece of that is the conversation about where it's done successfully as people look to opt in. How does the city help provide the infrastructure to do that? One, composting is a great example, right? It's not, you can't go behind a lot of the restaurants here in Old Webster and find a spot to compost. How does the city create that kind of space, compost pickup, blah, 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 to do such things? Do we provide a waiver of fees to be a part of that program for people up to a certain amount? Do we provide any stipend grants, micro grants to help implement those types of practices? That's all can be paid for out of the ARP. So, and it's something I'm very interested in. Maplewood did this very successfully. A lot of businesses in Maplewood in the food service area are there, and actually a good chunk of Webster food service folks are already doing many of these practices. And it draws a whole different marketing clientele, of course, when you start to talk about green dining and sustainable practices behind food preparation. So it's a possibility of a program that can really work with our food service industry and those license handlers to move in a sustainable manner now. So they'll have a proposal from their perspective of sustainability to come and talk with you about. We don't need to decide right away on that, but it's, you know, it's an option and a potential that the city can really lean into in that regard. And it accomplishes, again, cross disciplines, you know, business and development and also sustainability measures.
Okay, All right, good deal. So the business liaison position, is that on there to ask city council to?
We certainly can. So I think, we will. There are things within that list that, the staff and members of city council, council member Bliss, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll say members of city council believe certain staff already do. But there are other pieces of the economic and business development that are without portfolio and are just a piece of what I do or what Mara does when we interact with people looking to come here.
Mhm.
But it is not our primary discipline of what we do every day, in terms of reaching out to attract business or to retain business, right? I mean, we have barely enough time to make sure we keep the business directory updated, to give a good example. So I think that we can look at that position. It's not in the budget as of yet, but that's something I think that's the timing and the reason we put.
Because we have to
business-
ask for it with the
Exactly.
budget request.
So I would like to just say that I think that we could, since we already came up with the recommendation and the list
Right.
of all the different things that we already did. That once we come up, when the subcommittee comes up with, as we're honing these needs of what the businesses feel like the city, best support, we might also hone that list. And so knowing, like things that are already covered versus what would still be remaining.
Yeah.
Would help us figure out what that business liaison position, would need to be based on where we are now.
So I will give you a response to that, where we believe things are off that list that you already gave us.
Yeah.
Where we believe are covered from a manager's perspective and such. The manager, Dr. Peoples, has already committed. She's not adding new positions to the budget she proposes. So your advocacy position is with the city council on adding a position. Not to put you in the hot seat, council member list, but just so you're aware, the city manager is not adding positions to the
So the
budget. that-
council has to recommend. it of
The
city
council would,
committee
yeah,
and-
so we will present the budget on April 18th to the council, and then from there, it's not the manager's budget. It's a proposal that we put in front of the council. They go through an amendment process and can add or subtract things.
That's kind of what we thought it was at before. too.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
so I'm just making it clear
Yeah, yeah.
that don't expect to see
It's not
it.
gonna be. instant.
Yes, the manager is not adding positions, in her recommended budget.
So to be clear, as far as timing on it, we'd have to make that recommendation for the business liaison probably by next month to city council.
I think we'd
to
want
make it
to
for this budget
get
year.
it formalized well enough, yes, in terms of what level of, kind of what you're thinking and such like that. Because in reality, late April, May is when the council would take their actions on the budget and then into June. So,
I think summertime is probably the soonest we would probably have that lined up again, yeah.
Because right now is that in your job description now for like a tele-tire to come into where?
well,
To
it's split in some ways, right? So a business reaches out, Tele-Tire is a great example. People are reaching out to Mara, right? Because what if I buy this building and move my business here, what do I have to do in terms of the planning and the zoning side, right? Oftentimes my end is much more of what are the tax incentives? What are the business services that are
Mhm.
provided by the city? That we are talking about here. Do they need TIF districts? Are they looking for tax abatements? Are they looking for rebates on certain things, that we can do? Those types of things, because businesses, are constantly asking those incentive questions. So it's a split designation like that. An economic developer, that's a little different than a business developer. I want to be clear, that's probably in our mind as staff where we more are. An economic developer sits in that way almost as a navigator, right? To take, to find people who are interested, but then also walk with them through those various entities, the silos within government on what can we help pull together.
That sounds like larger. Is there anybody that helps like the smaller businesses?
Well, they certainly can.
Okay.
They certainly can. An economic developer is not necessarily is just big development. It's not just looking for a Douglas Hill. I mean, these are folks then who deal with, what do I need to do to move my business down the street and in this building and such, and trying to help cut through and get you to the right people and planning. Obviously, we all have a good relationship with Mara. We're a small enough town, right? We can get to planning, we can figure out what's going on. But if you're not from this town and don't know those people, right, it's who's that first call? It makes no sense if why am I calling planning to find out about a tax incentive, right? And we don't, those kinds of things that are maybe out of the way. And there are tax incentives that like the green dining thing, that's an incentive program, right? That doesn't why would you call the finance director, you know, to find out about that kind of a business program, so.
This might be really naive, but I had somebody ask me a question the other day and I just said, call City Hall.
Yeah. I
So
think
you
that'll-
kind of think like the person that answers the phone
Right.
knows where to send people.
Yeah.
Well, and you're right, I mean, we do, right, but it takes that triage, because sometimes you have to get people to ask the question the right way for us to even trigger, what are we looking for here, right? You know, I want to open a business, well. So oftentimes it's gonna go to planning, but it may not be anything to do with property and, you know, conforming uses and all that, it's really about. You know, what's the taxation rate, and then they get on that telephone game in City Hall.
Well, is it too sophisticated to suggest that maybe some front desk training could do the job?
Certainly in that regard, yes. I think an economic developer ultimately is also someone who was reaching out, right? I mean, how do you fill empty storefronts? Maplewood intentionally went through that years back and they hired a staff to do that. Now it's since been eliminated and absorbed back into the staff. But it's not part of the culture here to do a big reach out operation. in
Sure,
terms of-
Yeah.
that's a different
Yeah.
story.
Okay. Okay,
But admin does know when they call, like where to direct people for the most part.
Again, if they hear the right words, right? I mean, you know, it's, if someone's calling to say, what's the tax rate? They're gonna come to me. That's my world, right? You know, if a business is asking that, but if I'm just interested in opening a business, they're gonna end up with planning and development to
Yeah,
start
Mara.
with,
Yeah.
all the time, right?
Roads.
Even though it may not have anything to do with property at all.
sure.
And there's so many changes, right? Home-based businesses now, right? I mean, we can't regulate them. So people are, well, do I need to do anything? And the answer is no. And so then that's, you know, well, I don't need to, people don't believe they don't need to do anything. Like, no, the state said you don't have to do anything. So, you know, go about and have business. So,
My business was very, I mean, it's a simple business
Yeah.
to open, but my experience opening my business 3 years ago was very easy.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Previously, I had a business within the city of St. Louis, and
Yeah.
it was crazy,
Right.
and it was like a nightmare, and you were like
Yeah.
shuffled around City Hall and with Webster, it was.
yeah, general small businesses, it's very simple, right? The business packet is it's pretty simple. You're gonna get a business license. Does your business conform to a commercial use? Especially if you're in a commercial district, it already does, right?
Yeah.
But if you're looking for something bigger or out of the normal ordinary.
Or a change of use.
Or a change of use, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that was learning curve.
And there are things that we say you can't have, right? I mean, it's, you know, there's an old ordinance, which we don't follow anymore, but like, I think it was tattoo parlors, you know, we, at one time, we're like, no tattoo parlors, and we were once a dry town. You know, so now when you start encountering those areas, you know, there's still some of that living memory that, you know, just helping business navigate the public reality of, we have to go in front of the council and someone's gonna be mad about something that's completely legal to do, you know,
Sure.
so.
Sounds like a
Oh,
hospitalist.
budget. I mean.
So we talked about it, so outside of the ARP fund, you have never historically had a budget.
No, well, it's just
It's
the,
like a few $1,000s a year.
Not for
not
me.
really.
No. Well, so there's holiday marketing, yes, that the city pays for. It's in the public affairs budget. So the districts kick in and then there's money set aside in that budget for business holiday marketing, the winter wonderland stuff. So it's
So,
not BDC budget. Like sustainability has $1,000, green space has $1,000. Parks and Rec, I think, some other commissions too.
I mean, at this point, I don't think we need to ask for anything different. We just need to ask for our 82 grand to get rolled over. Right?
And if you want to ask for more ARP funds. So this is really, you know, we have to, by the end of calendar year
That
20.
word's never been used before. That's perfect.
That's it, all in the budget. So the ARP funds have to be allocated, meaning designated for use by the end of calendar year 24. Okay? So that means the end of next calendar year, they all have to be, this is the direction we're going to use those funds. We have to actually spend them by the end of 2026. Okay? So if you want a business development fund, that's another $100,000 added, or you know, want $1 million added. You know, those are the requests to make and such. And there's 1.4 million that the council that is remaining in the ARP fund unallocated to be designated.
Oh, okay, so we still, okay,
So if we come up with something really good, then we could add.
Correct,
Use
yes.
it for the map.
And to be quite honest, I mean,
No, I just don't think the return, like, I would rather see like electric charging stations or something in the different areas, you know, that'll like, since people map that and they go to them. I don't know.
and to that point, the council has talked very long about our charging stations. I think Crossroads will likely be having a few installed. We've talked heavily about that as staff, right?
Okay.
44. So, in other areas as well.
Yeah.
So when do we have to put in our budget request by? Next month?
We would like it next month, yes. So,
Okay. So. We should definitely ask for 82 grand back, but we should probably come up with a proposal to ask for more. When there's,
Or if there's something comes up, I mean, are they allocating all of that 1.4?
I would expect this budget that they are going to pull it down and allocate it. Right now, I think there is going to be. This didn't get spent, so there'll be shifting mid-year, you know, okay, this pot didn't get spent, let's move it over to an area and get it in a different program, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not telling you to be I don't think, we always just say in politics, you know, hogs get slaughtered, pigs get fed, so it's, you know, how do you end up getting the right amount, finding that sweet spot? You know, we put $100,000 into a couple different areas for investment and haven't seen a lot of movement on it. In fact, you guys have spent the most,
oh, really?
right, so far.
I
That's
think-
18,000, so.
Spending money.
Right, so, and I would not, and let's be honest about the ARP funds, I mean, if we're still spending them in 2026, it's okay.
Mhm.
But the point of that was to get it out and pump it in the economy, so, you know, don't sit on it waiting, you know, we should spend it wisely, but don't feel like you need to hoard that up. 'Cause
Yeah, but I think like the map is a good thing to spend it on. I think you know, potentially if we do a business liaison position, I mean, I know that one's tough. We went back and forth on that because that is going to create continued expense after the funds are spent, but. I think that's something that we think is beneficial, and so.
Do you have an idea of how much it costs per charging station?
So a high-speed charging station was about, I think it was 52,000, all in with power installation and then the charging
And
station.
is it like something that people would pay for?
Yes, so the city will charge, so there's a change slot,
Meter
card
thing,
meter,
yeah.
yes, I mean, it's a revenue generating function,
Sure.
so.
I think that would be amazing to have in lots of different areas of town, because literally I know a bunch of people who travel and they will map out
Yep.
cities and towns across the country
Right.
to go to.
Is sustainability talking about that at all? I mean, is
So
anybody
I
else
mean,
talking about that?
I think that has risen beyond even the commissions. I mean, they're all talking about it, yes,
Mhm.
but it's risen beyond the commissions because it's, the council's already said, we're in on that, right? I mean, we bought some electric vehicles, we're going that way. And so it's really now a matter of start plotting and council deciding how much money we're gonna put into buying.
Sure,
And I mean, the old Webster deck here in Old Webster, you know, I mean, we own that parking garage that easily could have a couple, that's land we own. In Crossroads, we own 2 parking lots. We own parking lots in Old Orchard. We have space up near Zeta Dell, and we have spaces around other commercial areas that the city owns that we don't have to ask anyone else. We can just put it in.
but yeah, I'd like to see those around the city, not just at City Hall, for the sake of
Right,
charging
yes, yeah.
city vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
And the ones here at City Hall, to be very clear, there are a couple dedicated, obviously,
Yeah.
police vehicles, so they can always be charged when they need to be, but there will be public stations here as well. So in the public lot that people can use.
Great.
I'd
Yes.
like to see money for the branding, the Webster Groves business community, whether that's television commercial that goes out or social media. To everybody that says shop in Webster and highlights the diversity of our
Yeah, and that's something that we can do, where we
Communities.
can earmark those funds through like
right.
2026, and then if it happens after that, you know, it's fine
Well,
way
I
to fund
would
it,
think
but.
to the point being made, it's to get people in now.
No, I agree, yeah, I mean, spend it if it brings business in for
Well, that's
2
what
more years,
everything
why
does
not,
is
yeah.
bring business in, so.
So do we want to talk about specific potential things next meeting?
We certainly can. So your budget request obviously is $1. I mean, you can put a plan behind it as well, or you can simply say, we want this money for plans to be determined.
Okay.
Pam might have had to head out. Yep, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so let's talk about that next meeting, just think about ideas as far as things that we can,
And maybe we can try to
Get
meet
more
as
of
a
the
subcommittee
investment
also before.
okay,
Eric, do we need to keep any kind of sunshine laws in mind if we needed subcommittee?
Yeah, so at subcommittees meeting, just let us know, we can notice it, and then Fran and I will be there to take minutes and help you all out, so.
It has to be posted. You have to post an agenda for your subcommittee. It doesn't have to be detailed. But you have to post it, has to be posted at least 24 hours before the meeting starts.
Just like your crab.
Yeah,
committee,
it's
so.
like a crab meeting.
Yeah, and we, unless everyone here wants it, we don't need to have Zoom at your your crab subcommittee, your subcommittee, there's too many subcommittees. Your conversations and such, unless you need it, and we obviously have smaller rooms here at City Hall, to need, with Zoom capabilities, so.
Okay,
Okay,
Y'all know what the crab stands, as the charter review board.
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
I think we
Well,
should have a mascot, actually.
Yeah, a little crab. That's one time, why wasn't it commission, why was it board, and then we all realized that the acronym would have been crack, and we didn't think that was very. Yeah.
That's thinking ahead.
Yeah.
so as part of the report to the city council on top BDC goals, obviously unifying the business districts and everybody's not in the business district, just businesses in Webster. I think getting more feedback from the businesses, whether that's like coffee with the mayor or doing another roundtable. And then spending some money, because we haven't had money the last few years and now we do. So we can use it on advertising, we can use it on, QR codes. I think that's probably our next 12 months is finding a way to earmark these funds and then talking about, work in Webster and what we've already done. And I think that's been pretty successful. So just kind of going with that. But
The business liaison, is that gonna be a point person that allows a new business to come in and kind of give them a little history about Webster? Like they'll know what Old Orchard is versus what Crossroads is, because we're finding that a lot of businesses are coming into Webster and not realizing that Old Orchard and Old Webster are different.
yeah. I mean, that would be like the economic development. Yeah, I think that's a piece of it, don't you think?
I think
Or is-
that's be part of the narrative, right? I mean, it's not to in any way belittle our city, but we're odd because we don't have one historic downtown, right? We're an amalgamation of former small communities melded in, so you don't have like Kirkwood, a historic downtown neighborhood. You have former neighborhoods that are all amalgamated now. And so if you're a business coming from an outside, right, you come from Clayton, right, downtown, rest of surrounded by residential, and you now come here and you're like, well, what's the difference between Old Webster and Old Orchard? I hear from businesses all the time.
The why.
Well, the why, but I also hear that, why do I have to be an old?
Oh, what?
Well, it's that concept of, they don't mind the historic charm. Why is it always about being old? Like, I mean, they're a business that maybe doesn't want to be associated with the idea that things are old.
Oh, historic Old Webster.
Well, that's right, but I mean, we boil it into the name, right? Old,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
and so there's that branding question, right? I mean, they're a business we heard this from, actually, there's a couple dispensaries we've been talking to that are like,
Oh, okay.
I don't want to be in Old Orchard. Old doesn't, to my customers, say, come try the new.
Tell them to try today to die.
There you go.
So it's that concept of branding and our identity, right? So-
But I'm finding that a lot
Big
of,
Webster, Little Webster.
Right, yeah.
I'm finding a lot of Webster, or a lot of businesses, when they come in, that like pop up by novel neighbor down there, are a little confused by the amount of energy and money that goes put into each district, and they aren't aware of that until they sign their lease. And I just feel like maybe there needs to be somebody that can answer those questions before.
Sure.
Cause they come in, they just think they're under Webster, but honestly, we all know that there's different districts that get different money for different things.
Right.
Yeah.
And some don't at all.
Right,
Yeah.
and then they get in and they're like, wait,
Why don't I get?
why am I not being invited to
Exactly.
participate in the holiday open house?
Right.
Yeah, I would think that's either
And
like,
that's it's
Or why
hard
doesn't
for,
the trolley go
it's hard
all
for
that
the-
way?
it's hard for a chairperson on that to have to explain to another new business, cause it's like,
Yeah,
oh, that's a bit, I mean, I'm sorry.
it doesn't make sense.
I think something like that would be part of business liaison position.
Okay,
for sure.
perfect,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also the
Um,
branding piece.
yeah.
I think
oh, yeah.
the money from us has to be spread around to create cohesion.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I don't know, for the sake of time, business district updates, anything major, anything new?
When does the road diet start in Old Orchard?
Road diet?
I know, I'm like, what?
They're-
The road diet.
Road diet, it's a road diet, so.
You said
Road diet.
Yes, so Big Bend is being reduced in terms of lanes through Old Orchard all the way out to Laflette. So it's going down to one lane in each direction with a center turn lane, one parking lane on one side.
Hopefully it happens after they get done pouring fiber cable.
So they're not repaving, they're just restriping. I think the bids are being left for that painting job, so. But I will get an answer for you. Ray Golick, the area engineer, will be at the next Old Orchard meeting, so.
And when is the Crossroads work?
That grant is in, that will really start in 26, so there'll be some
Oh,
temporary
right.
changes.
Right.
But that's a whole new resurface and road diet there as well. County's goal essentially is to get Big Bend down to 1 lane, instead of going from this 1 lane to 2 lanes back to 2, all that kind of stuff.
So
Yeah.
is the thought also that then that might drive more commercial traffic to Manchester and Watson that have been kind of suffering?
From the county side?
Yeah.
I think because the point is that you've got 1 lanes and it expands to 2 lanes and areas, cuts back to 1 lane, right? I mean, Crossroads is a 2-lane district, but as you only get by Schnucks, and it goes back down to 1 lane to go
Yeah.
through our residential area. So how do we slow traffic and end this sort of rush to the intersections and the speeds that are coming through those areas?
Yep.
And that certainly Crossroads is talking about that as well. On Big Bend, it's really the issue of pedestrian crossings created by Vulcan and the annex, the whole area of parking. It's just simply pedestrian crossings have become unsafe there, so.
Almost got hit once there, like 2 weeks ago.
There's one, 2 weeks ago.
Wasn't a long ago.
But you run a lot, so.
Not that much. You
Okay.
never see me out there, but not that much, just in the middle of the day, so peak time, yeah. But all right, so city updates, I see what Pam put.
So city updates, they are lots of great issues. Lustron Homes, the city is working on an ordinance to preserve those. In fact, a 3rd reading coming up. So I think all but 3 of them that stand are going to be preserved as historic land or designated as historic landmarks. I don't want to say preserved, it's property owners still have rights with them. The marijuana ordinance is being updated, namely in compliance with the state statute or the state constitutional amendment. Meaning that businesses can come here, right? It would be within so many, away from certain places, churches, parks and schools. And then, let's see, what else did she say? Sales tax question on marijuana is on the April ballot. It'll be Prop M. That is the additional 3% tax should a dispensary be located here in Webster Groves.
Gotcha.
That the amendment allows to happen. Regular sales tax is already applying, so we're getting pooled sales tax from marijuana sales happening in St. Louis County. This is if we get a dispensary, we can add 3% sales tax on that, on the sale of them or edibles.
Okay. All right, cool. Next meeting's March 23rd. I don't know if I'm gonna be here or not. If I do, it'll be over Zoom because I'm out of town, but we both have a lot to talk about, so I'll try to be here.
I
But
think that's spring break week, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Can we
Right.
change the meeting so
we
you're
changed
here?
it.
For that meeting, we have the results of the roundtable, or survey kind of things, like if we're gonna be
Sure,
trying to talk about that.
Yeah.
And so you all know it's always on the business development page too. It's still posted, so definitely, I'll just read it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So. Okay, well.
So, sorry,
go
you
ahead.
asked a question about changing the meeting date, so you could be there.
I'm out of town the week before, so we could change it if other people are out of town, but. Don't change it on my account, I guess.
We can carry the torch if need be.
That's right. I was just saying, keep me in the loop.
Step
Yep,
right in.
yep. All right, well, good deal.
Everyone will get t-shirts, you know.
That's right.
Here's what we did while Mike's away.
Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, let's go ahead and adjourn then. Good meeting, lots of stuff. So.